Well, I didn't know anything about my dad's mom because of what happened. And I didn't even really care. Like, I didn't even really care. Hi, my name's Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel where we talk about American identity and family stories. And this video in particular is going to be about family stories. And I apologize, I have to use my headphones because I think something snapped off with the USB in my mic and I need to look into it. So I didn't want to plug it in and have something terrible happen. So I'm going to use these for this video. And this video is part of a series that you can watch in any order, but it's about my ancestors and the people in my family tree. But family stories can be elusive, especially if your family is anything like mine. It's not perfect. And there's some shadowy parts to the family and the family story. I was around 10 or 11 years old when I met my maternal grandmother. And I don't want to do too much of the family dirt on here. My dad will probably be surprised to see a video even about his mom on here. His mom's name is Marie, and he was estranged from her as a young boy, like a preteen, I think, after his parents divorced, and it was a really bad, messy divorce. And because I think those things can be complex, and as I get older, I realize how complex those things can be. But my dad ended up sticking with his dad, and so he ended up estranged from his mom. And so I didn't grow up seeing her. She was not the grandmother figure. My mom's mom was the grandmother figure. That was my Grammy. That's the one, I've talked about this side of the family so much on this channel. This is the Louisiana side. When I think about being a kid with my grandmother, like, that's the grandmother I think about. I did end up having a relationship with Marie, but it wasn't the same kind of a thing. And so despite that reconnection, and a lot of those efforts are from my mom, even though my dad was fine with it, but my mom really pushed because she wanted us to know my dad's side of the family. There's still so much I don't know about that side of the family. And I know many of us navigate life with only fragments of our heritage, trying to piece together where we come from and who we are from incomplete stories. And sometimes those stories are incomplete because families have broken. I want to tell you a little bit about my dad's mom. And this is like really awkward for me. I feel a little awkward doing it. Part of the reason is because we called her Nana, but I remember, like, even as a kid, I would still sometimes call her Marie because I just felt like weird. And one of the things that was interesting to me was that when my dad and I took 23andMe tests a couple years ago, and then the original 23andMe test, I was at almost 15% Iranian and Egyptian from my dad's side, which obviously you don't get exactly 50% from each parent. But that was still be about a pretty high amount for my dad to have. All of his grandparents from southern Italy. So I was really surprised by that. And Marie took a DNA test on 23andMe before she passed away. And I very stupidly deleted it. I cannot give you an intelligent reason why I did that, but I did. But I did take a screenshot of her Middle Eastern portion. Both of her parents were from Italy, and I'll show you pictures of them. But when she took the test, she had Iranian and Egyptian and North African showing up, which I think is a pretty common story for those with Southern Italian heritage. I don't know why my dad's was so much. And I think telling these stories, especially when you feel disconnected from part of the family, can be challenging because I have this tension of wanting to dig in, wanting to share the family history, and grappling with the gaps in knowledge and the reason that they're there. So Marie's parents, I want to introduce you to. So this is my dad's grandparents on his mom's side. And so it's his dad was Pascal, and they called him Patsy. I think it's pronounced Ianatano. I should know. That's my grandmother's maiden name. I really don't even know anything. That's how little I know about this. He was born in Molise, Italy. When I was researching where he went to college, it's a part of Italy that there's kind of this joke going around. It's a part of Italy that doesn't exist. And we'll get to that maybe. But so here's the shared screen for her dad, Pascal. So my dad actually knew this grandpa growing up. He really liked this grandpa. So they had him listed on the ship manifest as Italian, and they specified South Italian. It was always specified whether or not you were Southern Italian on there. And he arrived in New York in 1921. So he was 28 years old when he came to the United States for the first time, which I think is really cool. I also love that it tells you how big they are. So he's my exact height. Brown hair, brown eyes. I don't know what a natural complexion is. I mean, I think if you had seen this like in 2024, you would definitely know. Maybe it means like no spray tan or something, but I don't know what it means right now. This was really cool to see. So he came over pretty late and he actually fought in World War II. He was in the Italian army. He was the bandmaster, which is totally crazy. So I didn't know anything about this because I didn't ask Marie about her parents. This is a picture that I really love. And it's a picture of, I think, some Italians in Troy, New York, which is where I grew up, where this was. And here is my great-grandfather, Pascal. And look at these guys. Don't they look fantastic? I just think this is the coolest picture of him. I think he looks so cool here. And he reminds me a lot of my dad. So I don't know which side of Marie's line, my grandmother's line, the Middle Eastern, Iranian, Egyptian side is coming. So I'm going to show you a picture of her parents at her wedding. So you'll see her dad when he's older and her mom. Her mom's name was, I think it's Antonietta Getty. And this says she was born in Massachusetts, but I've also seen records where it says that she was born. So here it says she's born in Massachusetts. I've also seen records though that say that she was actually born in Italy and she was naturalized. So I don't know how you get that wrong, how that changes. But one thing that was interesting about my great grandmother was that she had an occupation when she was 14 years old. 14 years old. And it says she was a doffer in a knitting mill. And I wasn't sure what that meant. And also I was trying to remember, well, what was I doing when I was 14? I was listening to records in my room, writing in my journal. So I had to look up what a doffer was a lot, but basically it was the person that takes down, I believe, the empty bobbins when you're sewing and replaces it with full ones. And they had kids doing this in the factories because their hands were smaller and like, I think more nimble and could do this. So she was working in a knitting mill. So this is my dad's grandmother, who I literally know nothing about. I know nothing about. It's so weird to me because I know so much more about my Louisiana side. Even though we were disconnected from that side, I feel like even more this side, I don't know. I think part of it has been not really knowing where to start, but also just not totally sure that I want to. You know, here I'm looking, I'm like, wow, this is my grandmother's mom. I didn't even know her name. Part of the reason I didn't know her name is because I didn't really want to know her name, you know? And so now I do regret not trying to learn about this stuff. I think that's the reality though. This is a hobby that has to do with people and people have fallouts. People have broken relationships and there's a lot of heartache. It's not, you know, like some other hobbies you have where that stuff's not coming into play. Well, I didn't know anything about my dad's mom because of what happened. And I didn't even really care. Like I didn't even really care. So, you know, now that I'm almost 40, I'm seeing the value in just, well, get the information and preserve it just to have it. So my kids can have it. But maybe you've had a situation like that. Let me know, you know, how you've handled that, what you have done. So I'm working a little bit on this side. So I don't have a ton on here. I just wanted to kind of just sit with you. And like I said, this series is a huge departure from the historical research videos I'm doing, where those are pretty scripted with a lot of research notes and references and primary sources. And this is really just sitting down and sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So let me know what you think, and we'll talk soon.